of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and I pray with all diligence that God will add virtue to our faith, knowledge to virtue, temperance, knowledge, patience, temperance, godliness to patience, and brotherly kindness to godliness, and may we continue to make sure of our election and calling to be sure so that we don't fall with the error of the wicked. Brothers and sisters, I've had enough of people out there wearing Abe Lincoln, shirts with Abraham Lincoln, with the blasphemous Antichrist, Trump's name on his hats or on his shirts. You guys ever see those kind of shirts where they try to make Trump equal to Lincoln? Do you know that Abraham Lincoln thought that Andrew Jackson was a tyrant? Do you guys understand that we have to read so we can understand what is going on and not just be deceived by deceivers who think that this man, this noble man, not many noble are called, but he was called by Jesus Christ to defend United States. Although, shrewd, he was in politics. It is recorded that he was shrewd in politics, a great leader to lead America through the bloodiest war in through the Civil War in history. This man, if you guys have studied this guy Lincoln, you would understand that this man is underestimated. I mean, you got a car named after him. I mean, aren't the righteous, the names of the wicked shall rot, but not this man's name. His name will never rot. When I tell you guys this man was excellent in character, you guys must believe that this man was truly worthy this man is truly worthy to be acknowledged as a president, and he is an all-time favorite president of the United States of America. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, brothers and sisters. This man was self-taught. He never went to Harvard, Stanford. This man was self-educated. He had 1 year of formal education. And this man had the greatest, teacher, which is probably most likely Jesus Christ, because most of his speeches have a lot to do with God, and they have a lot to do with the Bible, brothers and sisters. So you got the greatest teacher, Jesus Christ, who let this man, to guide United States of America through this Civil War. But I want you guys to, understand that Lincoln is not compared. You can't compare this man to Donald Trump. I want us to go through this address that he actually had. It's called the Lyceum Address. Right here. Lyceum Address, brothers and sisters. This is one of the most worthy addresses. I don't know why nobody's ever talked about this kind of address. I want to go here and talk about it, actually, because he feared that Americans would revolt and be disgusted with their government one day, that this country would come into lawlessness. How are people going to compare Lincoln to Donald Trump when he said that he was afraid for the government? This man stood for unity. This man stood for, constitutional order. This man, Lincoln, he stood for constitutional order, for truth. This man understood the Constitution better than you and I. He understood what words meant. No, Nyla, it's not the Bible, but I'm talking about what this man did. This Lincoln, how he actually, everything that he was led in life was by the Bible. This man was led by God, by Jesus Christ. Not Trump, this man right here. But a lot of people don't understand that. They don't understand, Abraham Lincoln. They've never studied, this man. They've never read about this man. This man is one of the greatest men, to ever walk this earth besides Jesus Christ, brothers and sisters. However, let's go here. I want us to go through this thing called the Lyceum Address, brothers and sisters, because it is so important for this modern day. And it is true from this woman. She's the author. Let me see. What is her name? Her name is Diana Schwab. Her name is Diana Schwab. She said that this address is for today's time that we're in, because, brothers and sisters, it is, Lincoln would have never supported Trump, all right? He would have never defended Trump, all right, brothers and sisters? He actually would have been, insulted that anybody would even compare him to Donald Trump or say that Trump is anything of him. All right, Abraham Lincoln would have been insulted and highly offended. All right, brothers and sisters, because this man was a nobleman, and not many noble are called. Let's go here. I want to read the appendix, the text of this perpetuation, the perpetuation of our political institution. This was the address before the Young Men's Lyceum of Springfield, Illinois, January 27, 1838. Brothers and sisters, yeah, he also did believe in separation of religion and state. However, brothers and sisters, it is very important to have, God, in our lives, because without, like it says, a house, even Lincoln understood, a house divided against itself cannot stand. That he had one of these, I think it was the Gettysburg Address. Brothers and sisters, Lincoln even understood that. He got it from the Bible. A house divided against itself cannot stand. All right, brothers and sisters? So I want you guys to understand the Gettysburg Address. Abraham Lincoln did use, the Bible too, and it was in his speeches. He did use quotes from the Bible, brothers and sisters. But I want us to go through this kind of address because it's so important in these times right now, because he would have been shocked to have seen January 6th, right, at the Capitol Hill. All right. I don't think that Lincoln would have, tolerated that. He didn't even tolerate the press, that were spreading rumors about him, brothers and sisters. So again, he would have never tolerated January 6th. All right, guys. So, I understand, Ethan, but it's, any kind of religion that's sparking a kind of war. Jesus did say that, he did not come to bring peace, but he meant to say, like, his word is a sword, and his word, his word actually is sharper than a double-edged sword, that he has not come to bring peace, but division against mother and daughter, father and son, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law. And this was because his word brings this kind of, sharpness, this kind of division, especially when you're trying to stand on the word of God and you're not being governed by feelings. Lincoln understood words very much so. He understood oaths. He understood the Constitution, Declaration of Independence. He understood all of this, brothers and sisters, better than us. And he stood for, preserving the Union and constitutional order, but people don't understand order. And I want to talk about the lawlessness that he understood that would happen today in this time. All right, brothers and sisters. Jesus Christ led this man. And I mean, can you imagine what it was like to be Abraham Lincoln? Did you guys see him from 1860 to 1865, how he aged within those 5 years through that Civil War, brothers and sisters? I mean, to be under that much pressure and to keep a composure, to keep a country. I mean, come on, this guy's great. This guy was great. Anyways, guys, let's go here. Here he says, okay, this is as a subject for the remarks of the evening, the perpetuation of our political institutions is selected. In the great journal of things happening under the sun, we the American people find our account running under date of the 19th century of the Christian era. We find ourselves in the peaceful possession. Whoever said this man was an atheist, brothers and sisters, this guy was not an atheist. He was not agnostic. This guy was a Christian. He didn't belong to no denomination. And I don't belong, and we shouldn't belong to denominations. I'm not saying to forsake the assembling of ourselves, but Lincoln, he didn't have any affiliations with any religion. Apparently, I think he was raised in a Calvinistic family, but he didn't want nothing to do with a Calvinistic approach because he knew that was a heresy. He didn't believe in predestination, that people were predestined to hell. So Lincoln, I have asked and sought the Lord Jesus Christ on this man because a lot of, people that ran this country were not from Jesus. Okay, brothers and sisters. So I was asking Jesus Christ. I said, Jesus, was Lincoln led by you? Like, did you guide this man? Because there was just something about Lincoln that, I've always loved Lincoln, man, ever since I was like a kid. I was fascinated by Lincoln. And now I see why. And I've read a lot about him. Yeah, this book is cool too. Abraham Lincoln by George McGovern. But all right, brothers and sisters, because like I said, I don't want to lead nobody astray. I need to study a person before I could even, exalt a person, right? Remember, the book of Proverbs says, let another man exalt you, not your own lips, right? So again, brothers and sisters, I wanted to read about this man. I wanted to see what kind of speeches, because he's known for he was a great orator, a great speech man. Glory to God. All right, brothers and sisters, glory to Jesus Christ for his great speeches at Gettysburg, right? Emancipation Proclamation. But this one, I've never heard of this one. So I said, I want to read this one. What is this about? Right? So let's continue, brothers and sisters in Christ. We find ourselves in the peaceful possession. Let's listen to what he says, because this woman breaks down his speech, like word for word, so we can understand what he was saying. We find ourselves, he says right here, in the peaceful possession of the fairest portion of the earth. As regards extent of territory, fertility of soil, and salubrity of climate, we find ourselves under the government of a system of political institutions, conducting more essentially to the ends of civil and religious liberty than any of which the history of former times tells us. Lincoln didn't have to go tell everybody he was a Christian. You know how you could just tell a tree by its fruit? You don't need to tell nobody. They just could look at your actions and see what kind of tree are you. All right? He didn't have to go out there boasting, about himself. Like, you guys, you got to understand. You can't compare Abraham Lincoln to Donald Trump. That is such an insult. That is an insult to anybody who has an intellectual mind. I mean, that's an insult. We, when mourning the stage of existence, found ourselves the legal inheritors of these fundamental blessings. We toiled not in the acquirement or establishment of them. They are a legacy bequeathed us by a once hardy, brave, and patriotic, but now lamented and departed race of ancestors. And isn't that right? All right, here he says, theirs was the task, and nobly they performed it, to possess themselves, and through themselves us, of this goodly land, and to uprear upon its hills and its valleys a political edifice of liberty and equal rights. So he understood what equality was. I mean, I wonder if it's, hold on, brothers and sisters, because I saw it in one of these pages. If you look at his Gettysburg Address, he uses a lot of the Constitution in his, all men are created equal. He was a great believer of that, right? Brothers and sisters, it's somewhere in this book, but let's just continue forth. I can't find it right now. So here he says, okay, so theirs was a task, and nobly they performed it to possess themselves, and through themselves us, this goodly land, and to uprear upon its hills and its valleys a political edifice of liberty and equal rights. 'Tis ours only to transmit these, the former unprofaned by the foot of invader, the latter undecayed by the lapse of time and untorn by usurpation, to the latest generation that fate shall permit the world to know. This task of gratitude to our fathers. He's talking about the founding fathers, justice to ourselves, duty to posterity, and love for our species in general, all imperatively require us faithfully to perform. You guys might think, like, what does Lincoln have to do with the Bible? What do you mean? Lincoln had a lot to do with in his time, he was led and governed by the Bible. He said that the Bible was the greatest gift given to men. All right, brothers and sisters, this man knew how to lead the country with the guidance of God. It was God in Lincoln that led, United States through that great Civil War. And why am I talking about this? Because the United States of America, is in a crisis, especially with these tariffs now. All right, guys, everything's going downhill now. We're in the end. Brothers and sisters, get ready. All right, there will be a war coming. So you guys got to understand, like, this president, the people's president, the people's choice, right? Because Lincoln believed that people made the government. The people chose the Antichrist, and that's, they have the fruit of their ways, all right? You put a billionaire in office, right? You put a billionaire. I don't care about politics. I'm talking about the man that Daniel saw. The vile persons who would raise up in his estate. With the small people, he'll gain favor. All right? Because he's going to try to make himself look like he's some kind of savior, right? He's going to blame everything on Joe Biden and say it was Joe Biden's fault, the raiser of taxes. All this is, we're in this kind of state that we're in because of Joe Biden. It's somebody else's fault. It's never Trump's fault, all right? We're going to be going into, great distress, brothers and sisters, with this man. All right. And I want to talk about how Lincoln was against, he is against, like people in those times, murderers and these gamblers were hung at the time. And Lincoln was against that. So Trump said in his second term that he wants to bring back executions. He wants to bring back hangings and possibly even the guillotines. You don't believe it? Go look it up. That's what he wants to bring back for criminals. This is lawless to the lawlessness I've ever seen, brothers and sisters, and it's going to continue to even get more lawless than this. How then shall we perform it? At what point shall we expect the approach of danger? By what means shall we fortify against it? Shall we expect some transatlantic military giant to step the ocean and crush us at a blow? Never. All the armies of Europe, Asia, and Africa combined with all the treasure of the earth, our own expected in their military chest, with a Bonaparte for a commander, could not by force take a drink from the Ohio or make a track on the Blue Ridge in a trial of 1,000 years. At what point then is the approach of danger to be expected? I answer, if it ever reach us, it must spring up amongst us. It cannot come from abroad. If destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and finisher. I mean, that right there, he gets it from the Bible. Author and finisher is Jesus Christ. I mean, doesn't the Bible say any house founded like that is built by man is in vain? I mean, our house is founded on God, all right? Our house should stand because we're founded on a rock, Jesus Christ. We built our house on a rock, not on sand. As a nation of free men, we must live through all time or die by suicide. I hope I am over weary, but if I am not, there is even now something of ill omen amongst us. I mean, the increasing disregard for law which pervades the country, the growing disposition to substitute the wild and furious passions in lieu of the sober judgment of courts, and the worse than savage mobs. I mean, you guys, he even understood the like, come on. You cannot tell me this man would have ever approved of Donald Trump. All right, guys? He would have never supported Donald Trump, even as a Republican president. Okay? Nagin Walker, this is called his greatest speeches, How Lincoln Moved the Nation. The greatest president. I mean, we could all learn from this man, right? Because, I mean, I live in the United States of America, and we're facing a crisis. And very soon, a war will take, place here. All right, brothers and sisters, because God puts it in, the king's hearts, and according to the book of Revelation, to burn the whore. Because God, he sees how deliciously she has dealt, he's talking about Mystery Babylon, and I believe, that Mystery Babylon here, the mother of all harlots, is United States of America. I mean, how sad that this is our nation, that, that kings have committed fornication with, brothers and sisters. And look at the leader that's, governing United States of America. Look at the leader that America chose, brothers and sisters. I mean, none of them were great. Not Biden, not Trump. You know what I'm saying? So, just very sad. Our king is Jesus Christ, and he's gonna come back, and he's gonna, establish this, righteousness. The world will be established in righteousness and order. It will no longer be in lawlessness like this. But I want to go back to this man where people have compared, Trump to Lincoln, which is a blasphemy, an abomination. I can't believe it. I can't believe what I'm hearing. I can't even believe the shirts that I see out there, brothers and sisters. Like this man had wore, the other day I saw, or not the other day, I think it was last year. I'm sorry, not the other day. The last year I saw a man wearing a Lincoln shirt and it had Trump on it. Like as if Lincoln would have supported Trump. I don't know, like I think those are the shirts that people make up or something. And I thought to myself, are you out of your mind? Lincoln is probably rolling in his grave. What are you wearing? What is that? Anyways, so here it says that this disposition right here, he says, is awfully fearful in any community. And that it now exists in ours. So he was ahead of his time. Though grating to our feelings to admit it would be a violation of truth and an insult to our intelligence. Oh yes, I understand. To deny accounts of outrages committed by mobs from the everyday news of the times. They have pervaded the country from New England to Louisiana. They are neither peculiar to the eternal snows of the former, nor the burning suns of the latter. They are not the creature of climate, neither are they confined to the slave-holding or the non-slaving holding states. Wasn't this the man that used the 13th Amendment to abolish slavery? Did he not understand the Constitution better than us? Right? But no. You got these extremists, these liars saying that Abraham Lincoln, he never abolished slavery. Okay, he couldn't do it in southern states, all right, because he was not going to go against, certain laws that states had, right? But he did abolish it. He did not want it to extend any further into territories. Alike they spring up among the pleasures hunting masters of southern slaves. And he didn't believe that anybody should be, a slave without consent. And the order-loving citizens of the land of steady habits, whatever then their cause may be, it is common to the whole country. It would be tedious as well as useless to recount the horrors of all of them. Those happening in the state of Mississippi and St. Louis are perhaps the most dangerous and example and revolting to humanity. In the Mississippi case, they first commenced by hanging the regular gamblers, a set of men, certainly not following for a livelihood, a very useful or very honest occupation, but one which, so far from being forbidden by the laws, was actually licensed by an act of the legislator, passed but a single year before. Next, Negroes, suspected of conspiring to raise an insurrection, were caught up and hanged in all parts of the state. Then, white men, supposed to be leagued with the Negroes, and finally strangers from neighboring states going thither on business, were in many instances subjected to the same fate. Thus went on this process of hanging from gamblers. Hold on, brothers and sisters. From gamblers to Negroes to white citizens, and from these to strangers, till dead men were seen literally dangling from the boughs of trees upon every roadside, and in numbers almost sufficient to rival the native Spanish moss of the country as the drapery of the forest. 7. Turn then to the horror-striking scene at St. Louis. A single victim was only sacrificed there. His story is very short and is perhaps the most highly tragic of anything of its length that has ever been witnessed in real life. A mulatto man by the name of McIntosh was seized in the street, dragged to the suburbs of the city, chained to a tree, and actually burned to death, and all within a single hour. He says right here, look what Lincoln said, from the time he had been a free man, attending to his own business, and at peace with the world. I mean, can you imagine for a moment you're that free man, the next minute you're going to get executed. You're going to get, guillotine, or you're going to get shot. You're going to have an execution, a mop of, they're going to bring back all these things that, it says he will change times and laws. Do you guys not see what Trump is doing? Is he not changing Gulf of Mexico? Are you serious? Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. You gotta be kidding me, brothers and sisters. Whoever voted for this idiot, I'm telling you right now, you're as big as a fool as Donald Trump if you voted for this man. This man is an idiot. You understand? Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. Seriously? Canada, 51st state? What? Oh my gosh. I'm done. I'm done. I'm just so insulted that anybody would compare Lincoln to Trump. I'm so insulted. You know, if I like brothers and sisters, I'm sorry. Pardon me. You know, I don't mean to get this angry, but I mean, that truly is like, it is offensive. All right, brothers and sisters, that anybody would compare this man who did for, a lot for United States, in the time of the Civil War, to this man who's actually going to spark a civil war. All right, guys? He says here, such are the effects of mob law. He says, and such are the scenes becoming more and more frequent in this land, so lately famed for love of law and order. Lincoln did believe in law and order. I mean, the Bible does say in Romans 13 to even be subject, right? Even those in, according to Ephesians, even those in which it says to be subject. Hold on, brothers and sisters. Let me see if I could find it. 1 second. Let me see. Hold on. Let me see. Where's my book of Ephesians? Hold on. Yeah, we are to be subject, brothers and sisters, for like it says, masters, or hold on, brothers and sisters, and ye masters, do the same things unto them, forbearing, threatening, knowing that your master also is in heaven, neither is there any respect of persons with him. So again, whether bond or free, knowing that whatsoever good thing any man doeth, the same shall he receive of the Lord, whether he be bond or free. So God says here, servants, be obedient then to your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, and singleness of your heart as unto Christ, not with eye service as men pleasers, but as servants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, with good will doing service as to the Lord and not to men. So again, we are to be subject unto those in which are in authority and powers, because if you look at Romans, where's Romans? Let me grab Romans chapter 13. Let every soul be subject unto higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinances of God. Now, let's not say that, you got to be subject to Trump. Get out of here. Brothers and sisters, this man is lawless, all right? Yeah, it says that they're going to bring us before magistrates, and they're going to, the time is going to come when they're going to, kill us thinking they're doing God a service, all right, brothers and sisters? But it's saying here, if you resist, shall they receive themselves damnation, for rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. So Lincoln understood law and order. He understood the order of the Constitution, all right? He understood, like, that it was made to protect us, right? Will thou then not be afraid of the power, do that which is good. Remember what Jesus said, render unto Caesar what's Caesar's, and what's to God, God's. And thou shalt have the praise of the same, for he is a minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain. All right? It says, for he is a minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. Wherefore ye must needs to be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. All right, brothers and sisters, I know that's in the, hold on. I think that's also in Peter, right? And in Titus. Here it says, for this cause pay ye tribute also, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. Render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. Owe no man anything but love one another, for he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law. All right, so I know that it's also in Titus. Hold on, brothers and sisters. I know it's in Titus. Let me grab my book, Titus. Hold on. Hold on. Here he says, put them in mind to be subject to principalities and powers, to obey magistrates, to be ready to every good work, to speak evil of no man and be no brawlers, but gentle, shewing all meekness unto all men. So also it's in the book of Peter. I know that, I understand that God wants us to be subject unto, powers, higher powers. I understand that, brothers and sisters. Hold on. It says here, hold Hold on, brothers and sisters. It's somewhere in the book of Peter. Because he tells us to be subject here. Hold on. Where is it? Even wives are to be subject to husbands. He says to be subject to even those in which are elderly, those in which are over you. Does anybody know where it is? I know it's in the book of Peter. Let me see if I could find it, guys. Hold on. Okay. It's in 1 Peter 2. It's right here. I'm on the chapter. Hold on, guys. Here it says, servants, be subject unto your masters with fear, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the froward. Okay? I want you guys to know they're going to bring us up before magistrates very soon. The time is coming. Let me go to the book of Matthew. Let me go to Matthew 24. The time is coming where Jesus told us what they're going to do to us. Okay? This is not going to come to us by surprise. All right? When they bring us before magistrates, all right? Jesus told us what's going to happen. Nation is going to come against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences, earthquakes in divers places. These are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. Jesus said they will kill us thinking they're doing God a service. And they might even use the commandments and say something like, whatever they're going to bring up with AI, whatever they're going to do Stargate, we're going to be a part of this cryptocurrency world, whatever kind of, digital world they want to set this world up to be, Musk and Trump. If we're not a part of this new world or whatever age of digital age, they might say that we're not, law-abiding citizens. They might say that we're not being subject to, their ordinances, that we're rebels, we're criminals, and they might, bring us up before magistrates and kill us. Because a lot of people will even agree with that. There will be many conspirators who will actually want to see people get executed that way. And you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Many shall be offended and shall betray one another and shall hate one another. And many, Jesus tells us what's going to happen. They're going to bring us up, and do those things in which should not surprise us, brothers and sisters. But I'm talking about, I'm not going to support Donald Trump. All right. And I will never, ever, ever, insult Lincoln by comparing him to Trump. All right, brothers and sisters. All right, so here it says, such are the effects of mob law. He called it a mob law. And such are the scenes becoming more and more frequent in this land, so lately famed for love of law and order. And the stories of which have even now grown too familiar to attract anything more than an ideal remark. But you are perhaps ready to ask, what has this to do with the perpetuation of our political institutions? And somebody said, what does this have to do with the Bible? I'm talking about the times we're in, my friends. We're in perilous times, okay, guys? We're in a time where the Antichrist is now reigning the earth for the last, couple years before Jesus comes to set up his, dominion and his, his kingdom. All right, brothers and sisters? And he's the greatest king that's coming back. It's, instead of Lincoln, it's Jesus Christ, all right? He's our king. He's coming back to restore the order. He's going to restore what has been, broken, whatever has been, whatever mess, previous presidents, wicked presidents have, drifted America, okay, let me continue. I answer, it has much to do with it. Its direct consequences are, comparatively speaking, but a small evil, and much of its danger consists in the proneness of our minds to regard its direct as its only consequences. Abstractly considered, the hanging of the gamblers at Vicksburg was of but little consequence. They constitute a portion of population that is worse than useless in any community, and their death, if no pernicious example be set by it, is never a matter of reasonable regret with anyone. If they were annually swept from the stage of existence by the plague or smallpox, honest men would perhaps be much profited by the operation, similar to is the correct reasoning in regard to the burning of the Negro at St. Louis. He had forfeited his life by the perpetration of an outrageous murder upon one of the most worthy and respectable citizens of the city, and not he had died as he did, he must have died by the sentence of the law. In a very short time afterwards, as to him alone, it was as well as the way it was as it could have otherwise have been, but the example in either case was fearful. When men take it in their heads today to hang gamblers or burn murderers, they should recollect that in the confusion usually attending such transactions, they will be as likely to hang or burn burn someone who is neither a gambler nor a murderer. Do you guys remember that parable Jesus had with the wheat and tares? And they're like, who had done this? And he said, an enemy had planted them both. And then his disciples were like, why don't you gather, the tares and burn them? And Jesus said, watch out, lest you gather the wheat and burn them too. Like, you don't want to, wait till the end of the harvest and the reapers will gather all things that offend God. All right. He didn't say, like, he said, wait because they both grow together, the wheat and tares. Right. And time will determine who is a wheat, who is from him, who is steadfast, rooted in Christ, and who is not from him. And that the angel at the end, the angels, will gather them. And the end of the world, all things that offend, and God will separate the wheat or the sheep from the goats, the wheat and tares. Okay? So I know that in the book of Revelation, let me see, where's my book of Revelation? Okay, book of Revelation. Doesn't it say that he who goeth into captivity, he that killeth with the sword shall be killed with the sword? Here's the patience of the saints. Hold on, brothers and sisters. I know it's somewhere in the book of Revelation. 15 says right here. Hold on, brothers and sisters. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with a sword must be killed with a sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. All right, brothers and sisters. So again, Jesus did tell us, like, remember when Peter had smote Malchus' ear off in the Gospels, and Jesus said, whoever kills with a sword will die by the sword. So again, Jesus was not, he was not for war. All right. And Lincoln understood he didn't even want to go to war, but he said that Congress had the power to institute that. All right. Not the president. Here it says, where am I? Okay. So the people are like, what does this perpetuation? What does this have to do with the perpetuation of our political institutions? Now, perpetuation is a hardship. Like, a hardship. Turmoil. I answer it has much to do with it. Its direct consequences are, comparatively speaking, but a small evil. Much of its danger consists in the proneness of our minds to regard its direct as only consequences. Abstractly considered, the hanging of the gamblers at Vicksburg was of but little consequence. So I just read that. Now, hold on, let's go back here. When men take it to their heads today to hang gamblers or to burn murderers, they should recollect that in the confusion usually attending such transactions, they will be likely as to hang or burn someone who is neither a gambler. And you guys, how many people are like in jail serving time serving a crime or some kind of sentence for something they haven't done? All right, brothers and sisters, nor a murderer as one who has remembered Joseph, and that acting upon, right here, the example they set, the mob of tomorrow may and probably will hang or burn some of them by the very same mistake. And not only so, the innocent, those who have ever set their faces against violations of law in every shape, alike with the guilty, fall victims to the ravages of mob law. And thus it goes on, step by step, till all the walls erected from the defense of the persons and property of individuals are trodden down and disregarded. But all this is not the full extent of the evil. By such examples, by its instances, of the perpetrators of such acts going unpunished, the lawless in spirit, are encouraged to become lawless in practice. And having been used to no restraint but dread of punishment, they thus become absolutely unrestrained. Having ever regarded government, he thought the people in the South were rebels, that they were not fighting for a cause, they just wanted to be rebels. As their deadliest bane, they make a jubilee of the suspension of its operations and pray for nothing so much as its total annihilation. While on the other hand, good men who love tranquility, and that's peace, right? Calm, who desire to abide by the laws and enjoy their benefits, who would gladly spill their blood in the defense of their country, seeing their property destroyed, their families insulted, their lives endangered, their persons injured, and seeing nothing in prospect that forebodes a change for the better, become tired of and disgusted with a government. Right here he says, a government that offers them no protection and are not much adverse to a change in which they imagine they have nothing to lose. Thus then, by the operation of this mobocratic spirit, which all must admit is now abroad in the land, the strongest bulwark of any government, and particularly of those constituted like ours, may effectually be broken down and destroyed. I mean the attachment of the people. Whenever this effect shall be produced among us, whenever the vicious portion of population shall be permitted to gather in bands of hundreds and thousands and burn churches, guys, ravage and rob provision stores, was he not ahead of his time? Did he not vision this to happen today? Look at this. Throw printing presses into rivers, shoot editors, and hang and burn obnoxious persons at pleasure and with impunity. Depend on it, this government cannot last. By such things, the feeling of the best citizens will become more or less alienated from it, and thus it will be left without friends, or with too few, and those few too weak, to make their friendship effectual. At such a time, and under such circumstances, men of sufficient talent and ambition will not be wanting to seize the opportunity, strike the blow, and overturn that fair fabric, which for the last half century has been the fondest hope of the lovers of freedom throughout the world. This speech is for today's generation. The Lyceum Address. This is the speech for today, for 2025's generation. I know the American people are much attached to their government. I know they would suffer much for its sake. I know that they would endure evils long and patiently before they would ever think of exchanging it for another. Yet, notwithstanding all this, if the laws be continually despised and disregarded, if their rights to be secure... I'm sorry, guys, hold on. Because my hand, I can't keep it steady. Hold on, brothers and sisters. If their rights to be secure in their persons and property are held by no better tenor than the caprice of a mob, the alienation of their affections from the government is the natural consequence, and to that, sooner or later, it must come. Here, then, is one point at which danger may be expected. The question recurs, how shall we fortify against it? The answer is simple. Let every American, every lover of liberty, every well-wisher to his posterity, swear by the blood of the revolution never to violate in the least particular the laws of the country, and never to tolerate their violation by others. What happened to we the people, guys? As the patriots of the 76 did to the support of the Declaration of Independence, so to the support of the Constitution and laws, let every American pledge his life, his property, and his sacred honor. Let every man remember that to violate the law is to trample on the blood of his father, and to tear the character of his own and his children's liberty. Let reverence for the laws be breathed by every American mother to the lisping babe that prattles on her lap. Let it be taught in schools, in seminaries, and in colleges. Let it be written in primers, spelling books, and almanacs. Let it be preached from the pulpit, proclaimed in legislative halls, and enforced in courts of justice. This man stood for the constitutional order. And you guys compare him to Trump? And in short, let it become the political religion of the nation, and let the old and the young, the rich and the poor, the grave and the gay, and all of sexes and tongues and colors and conditions sacrifice unceasingly upon its altars. While ever, he says right here, while ever a state of feeling such as this shall universally or even very generally prevail throughout the nation, vain will be every effort and fruitless every attempt to subvert our national freedom. When I so pressingly urge a strict observance of all the laws, let me not be understood as saying there are no bad laws, nor that grievances may not arise, for the redress of which no legal provisions have been made. I mean to say no such thing. But I do mean to say that, although bad laws, if they exist, should be repealed as soon as possible, still they continue in force for the sake of example. And he thought that even if they were bad laws, they would, people would need to repeal them. They should be religiously observed. So yes, this man didn't need to say he was religious. Yes, he was a Christian, brothers and sisters. Abraham Lincoln was a Christian. So also in unprovided cases, if such arise, let proper legal provisions be made for them with the least possible delay, but till then, let them, if not too intolerable, be borne with. 15. There is no grievance that is a fit object of redress by mob law. In any case that arises, as for instance, the promulgation of abolitionism, one of the two positions is necessarily true. That is, the thing is right within itself, and therefore deserves the protection of all law and all good citizens, or if it is wrong, and therefore proper to be prohibited by legal enactments, and neither case is the interposition of mob law either necessary, justifiable, or excusable. But if it may be asked, why suppose danger to our political institutions? Have we not preserved them for more than 50 years? And why may we not for 50 times as long? We hope there is no sufficient reason. We hope all dangers may be overcome, but to conclude that no danger may ever arise would itself be extremely dangerous. There are now and will hereafter be many causes, dangerous in their tendency, which have not existed heretofore, and which are not so insignificant to merit attention, that our government should have been maintained in its original form from its establishment until now is not much to be wondered at. It had many props to support it through that period, which now are decayed and crumbled away. Through that period, it was felt by all to be an undecided experiment. Now it is understood to be a successful one. Then all that saw celebrity and fame and distinction expected to find them the success of that experiment. Their all was staked upon it. Their destiny was inseparably linked with it. Their ambition aspired to display before an admiring world a practical demonstration of the truth of a proposition which had hitherto had been considered at best no better than problematical, namely the capability of a people to govern themselves. If they succeeded, they were to be immortalized. Their names were to be transferred to counties and cities and rivers and mountains, and to be revered and sung and toasted through all time. If they failed, they were to be called knaves and fools and fanatics for a fleeting hour, then to sink and be forgotten. They succeeded. The experiment is successful, and thousands have won their deathless names in making it so. But the game is caught, and I believe it is true, that with the catching and the pleasures of the chase, this field of glory is harvested, and the crop is already appropriated. But new reapers will arise, and they too will seek a field. It is to deny what the history of the world tells us is true, to suppose that men of ambition and talents will not continue to spring up amongst us. And when they do, they will as naturally seek the gratification of their ruling passion as others have so done before them. The question then is, can that gratification be found in supporting and maintaining an edifice that has been erected by others? Most certainly it cannot. Many great and good men sufficiently qualified for any task they should undertake may ever be found, whose ambition would inspire to nothing beyond a seat in Congress, a gubernatorial or a presidential chair, but such belong not to the family of the lion or the tribe of the eagle. What, think you these places would satisfy an Alexander, a Caesar, or a Napoleon? Never. Towering genius disdains a beaten path. He seeks regions hitherto unexplored. He sees no distinction in adding story to story upon the monuments of fame erected to the memory of others. It denies that it is glory enough to serve under any chief. It scorns to tread in the footsteps of any predecessor, however illustrious. It thirsts and burns for distinction, and if possible, it will have it, whether at the expense of emancipating slaves or enslaving freemen. It is unreasonable, then, to expect that some men possessed of the loftiest genius, coupled with ambition sufficient to push it to its utmost stretch, will at some time spring up among us. And when such a one does, it will require the people to be united with each other, attached to the government and laws, and generally intelligent to successfully frustrate his designs. Distinction will be his paramount object, and although he would as willingly, perhaps more so, acquire it by doing good as harm, yet that opportunity being past, and nothing left to be done in the way of building up, he would set boldly to the task of pulling down. Here, there is a probable case, highly dangerous, and such a one as could not have well existed heretofore. Another reason, which once was, but which to the same extent is now no more, has done much in maintaining our institutions thus far. I mean the powerful influence which the interesting scenes of the Revolution had upon the passions of the people as distinguished from their judgment. By this influence, the jealousy, envy, and avarice, incident to our nature and so common to a state of peace, prosperity and conscience strength were for the time in a great measure smothered and rendered inactive, while the deep-rooted principles of hate and the powerful motive of revenge, instead of being turned against each other, were directly exclusively against the British nation. And thus, from the force of circumstances, the basest principles of our nature were either made to lie dormant or to come to the active agents in the advancement of the noblest of cause, that of establishing and maintaining civil and religious liberty. But this state of feeling must fade, has faded with the circumstances that produced it. I do not mean to say that the scenes of the Revolution are now or ever will be entirely forgotten, but that like everything else they must fade upon the memory of the world and grow more and more dim by the lapse of time. In history we hope they will be read of and recounted so long as the Bible shall be read. But even granting that they will, their influence cannot be what is heretofore has been. Even then, they cannot be so universally known, nor so vividly felt, as they were by the generation just gone to rest. At the close of that struggle, nearly every adult male had been a participator in some of its scenes. The consequence was that of those scenes, in the form of a husband, a father, a son, or a brother, a living history was to be found in every family. A history bearing the indubitable testimonies of his own authenticity, and the limbs mangled, and the scars of wounds received, in the midst of very scenes related, a history, too, that could be read and understood alike by all, the wise and the ignorant, the learned and the unlearned. But those histories are gone. They can be read no more forever. They were a fortress of strength. But what invading foeman could never do, the silent harlotry of time has done. The leveling of its walls. They are gone. They were a forest of giant oaks, but the all-resistless hurricane has swept over them and left only here and there a lonely trunk, despoiled of its verdure, shorn of its foliage, unshading and unshaded, to murmur a few gentle breezes and to combat with its mutilated limbs a few more ruder storms than to sink and to be no more. Did you guys know that this guy was a poet too? He incorporated poetry in his speeches. He loved poetry. They were the pillars of the temple of liberty, and now that they have crumbled away, that temples must fall unless we, their descendants, supply their places with other pillars hewn from the solid quarry of sober reason. Passion has helped us, but can do so no more. It will in the future be our enemy. Reason, cold, calculating, unimpassioned reason, must furnish all the materials for our future support and defense. Let those materials be molded into general intelligence, sound morality, and particular reverence for the Constitution and laws, and that we improved to the last, that we remain free to the last, that we reverend his name to the last, that during his long sleep we permitted no hostile foot to pass over or desecrate his resting place. Shall be that which to learn the last trump shall awaken our Washington. Upon these let the proud fabric of freedom rest as the rock of its basis, and as truly has been said of the only greater institution, the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. It's what God told Peter, that the gates of hell shall not prevail against his church. He understood that saying. Guys, I want to cry because our country's going down. I love you guys. I'll see you soon. It is no wonder why he's the only president with the name Abraham. That name, Abraham, founding father. He was a founding father, and he was a father of America, this one right here. And he's worthy. This man is worthy to be remembered. And I hope that speech, touches us today because it's so relevant for the times that we're in today. United States, is finished, man. Gotta go, guys. I love you all. God bless you. Bye.